Welcome to the AI Timeline channel. If you enjoy our deep dives, please remember to like and subscribe. Today, we're taking a look at DeepSeek.
Yeah, they're kind of trying to stir the pot in the AI world, going up against those big names,
Yeah.
like OpenAI and Anthropic.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting story, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And what's particularly intriguing is their commitment to open source, especially when, most of these big AI companies, they keep their models under wraps, like a closely guarded secret. DeepSeek is putting everything out in the open,
Yeah.
code, technical details, the whole nine yards.
Yeah, I'm not sure secret is the right word. More like a proprietary black box situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, DeepSeek is going in a completely different direction.
Yeah.
But the big question is, can they back up all this open source idealism with actual performance? Can they really, hang with the heavy hitters in the AI space?
Well, that's what we're here to find out. Their journey begins with DeepSeek V3, or DS3 for short. It launched just last month, and it's already making waves, boasting a massive 671 billion parameters.
607 billion. Are they trying to win an AI arms race?
No.
Like just by sheer size alone? I mean, how do you even train something that massive without, melting a few data centers?
Well, that's where their cleverness comes in. They've implemented this technique called mixture of experts, MOE for short.
Okay.
It's like, imagine a team of specialists, right? Each one is brilliant in their own field. You wouldn't call on a brain surgeon to fix your plumbing, would you?
Right. You'd call a plumber.
Exactly.
So instead of having like one giant AI brain trying to do everything, they've got a bunch of smaller brains, and each one is like an expert in a specific area.
Right.
And they only activate the ones they need for a particular task.
Precisely. And that's how DS3 achieves such incredible efficiency. It only activates a small fraction of its parameters for each task, making it surprisingly lean and mean.
So it's not just about brute force. It's about being smart with your resources. Like that. But let's get down to brass tacks. How does all this cleverness translate into actual performance? Can it keep up with the big boys in the AI playground?
Well, DS3 has been holding its own in benchmarks, outperforming models like Llama and Qwen. And get this, it's even going toe-to-toe with the giants like GPT-4 and Claude in certain coding and math tests. Not bad for an open source upstart.
Hold on. This little engine that could is actually competing with the AI elite. That's impressive, especially considering the difference in resources. Speaking of resources, how much did it cost them to train this behemoth?
Prepare to be surprised again. They pulled it off for a mere $5.5 million.
$5.5 million. That's like pocket change for some of these tech giants. It's like they're playing a different game altogether.
Yeah.
So we've established that DS3 is efficient and surprisingly affordable.
Yeah.
But what about its successor, DeepSeek R1? What makes it so special?
Now this is where things get really interesting. R1 is all about reasoning. They've introduced this fascinating feature called DeepThink. Imagine an AI that can actually show you its thought process step by step in real time.
Wait, are you saying this AI can explain its reasoning like a human? It's not just spitting out answers, it's showing its work. That's amazing. And kind of unnerving, to be honest.
It is a bit like that. For example, if you ask R1 to count the R's in strawberry, it won't just say 3. It'll actually show you how it arrived at that answer, highlighting each R as it counts.
Okay, that's just showing off.
Yeah.
But seriously, what's the purpose of all this transparency? Is it just a gimmick, or is there some deeper meaning to this DeepThink business?
It's far more than just a party trick. This transparency, combined with a technique called reinforcement learning, is what enables R1 to excel at tasks requiring complex reasoning. Think competitive programming, advanced math problems, the kind that would make most humans, reach for a calculator and a strong cup of coffee.
So they're teaching this AI to think like a human, but with the processing power of a supercomputer. Fascinating. And yeah, a little terrifying. But before we spiral into an existential crisis, how does R1 actually measure up against the competition? Is it all hype, or is there some substance behind the DeepThink curtain?
It's more than just smoke and mirrors. In certain tests, like the GPQA Diamond and Math 500, R1 actually outperformed even GPT-4. And in coding challenges, it's displaying a level of ingenuity that's almost, well, unsettlingly human-like.
So DeepSeek isn't messing around. They're coming out swinging with some serious innovation. But I have to ask, isn't all this transparency and open source stuff a bit risky? Aren't they giving away their secret sauce?
That's the question a lot of people are asking. It's a bold move for sure. But DeepSeek seems to be betting on the idea that open collaboration will ultimately lead to faster progress and a more inclusive AI landscape.
So it's gamble, a high-stakes game of AI poker, with the future of the field at stake.
Yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see how it all plays out. But one thing's for sure, DeepSeek is making things very interesting. Indeed, they are. And their story is just beginning. But before we dive into the next chapter, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned so far.
Sounds like a good plan. We've covered a lot of ground, from, giant parameter counts to transparent AI thought processes.
Yeah.
It's enough to make your head spin, even if you're an AI enthusiast.
We've seen how DeepSeek is challenging the status quo, with their open source approach, their focus on efficiency, and that groundbreaking DeepThink technology. But what does it all mean in the grand scheme of things? That's what we'll explore next. So we've talked about DeepSeek's efforts to build efficient models and even peek into their thought processes. But the real question is, does any of this actually matter for, regular folks?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's easy to get caught up in all the technical wizardry, but at the end of the day, it's all about impact, right?
Yeah.
So let's break it down. What are the real-world implications of DeepSeek's approach, especially for, developers out there building the next generation of AI-powered apps and stuff?
Well, I think one of the most immediate impacts is likely to be on the cost of AI development. We already mentioned DeepSeek's ridiculously low pricing compared to its competitors.
Right.
This could really shake things up in the industry, potentially making AI tech more accessible to, a wider range of developers and businesses.
So DeepSeek's like the Robin Hood of AI, stealing from the rich closed-source giants and giving to the poor independent developers. Except instead of gold, they're giving away algorithms and data models.
Huh. That's a pretty good analogy. But yeah, the point is that open source has the potential to level the playing field.
I like it. But let's dig a little deeper into this whole open source thing. How does it actually benefit developers in a, practical sense?
Well, imagine you're a developer building an app that uses AI, let's say, for image recognition. With a closed source model, you're essentially stuck with whatever the provider gives you, right? Yeah.
It's like ordering a pizza with only one topping choice. Take it or leave it.
No anchovies.
You got it.
So you're at the mercy of the AI pizza chefs, hoping they get your order right.
Exactly. But with DeepSeek's open source approach, you have the freedom to experiment. You can download the code, you can modify it, you can adapt it to your specific needs.
Gotcha. So it's like giving developers the keys to the AI kitchen instead of just a slice of the pie.
Precisely.
Okay, I'm seeing the appeal. It's not just about building apps, though, right? What about the impact on research?
You're right. Open source AI has huge implications for research as well. Researchers can actually dissect DeepSeek's models, understand how they work, identify potential biases, and come up with ways to make them even better. It's like having an open source blueprint of a car engine, You can study it, tinker with it, maybe even design a better engine.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's not just about building the cars, it's about understanding how they work and pushing the boundaries of, automotive engineering, or in this case, AI engineering. Exactly. And because DeepSeek is so transparent about their methods, it really encourages collaboration. Researchers can share their findings, build upon each other's work, and kind of collectively advance the state of the art in AI.
It's like a global open source research lab.
Mm-hmm.
But, with fewer lab coats and safety goggles.
Probably more hoodies and energy drinks.
Exactly. But seriously, this is a pretty big deal. It's like the difference between having a secret society of AI wizards, versus having an open forum where anyone can contribute their ideas and expertise. But of course, no revolutionary movement comes without its skeptics and challenges.
You're absolutely right. There are still some big questions about DeepSeek's long-term viability.
Yeah.
Can they maintain this level of transparency as they grow? Will they be able to compete with the, massive resources of the tech giants in the long run?
Those are the million-dollar questions, aren't they? It's like watching a high wire act.
Mm-hmm.
You're impressed and terrified at the same time, wondering if they'll make it to the other side.
That's a good way to put it.
But whether DeepSeek ultimately succeeds or fails, its impact on the field is undeniable, right? They've already shaken things up, they've challenged the status quo, and they've definitely inspired a whole new generation of AI developers and researchers.
Yeah, it's like throwing a pebble into a pond and watching the ripples spread.
Okay, that's a nice analogy. But let's not get too poetic here. We're talking about AI, not water lilies and pond reflections.
Fair enough. But speaking of reflections, maybe it's time we turn our attention to some of the potential risks and challenges associated with DeepSeek's open source approach. Because let's be honest, no technology comes without its downsides.
Right. We can't just ignore the potential pitfalls here. So what are some of the concerns people are raising about DeepSeek's open source model? Is it all sunshine and rainbows, or are there some storm clouds on the horizon?
Well, I think one of the biggest concerns is the potential for misuse. When you make powerful AI tools freely available, there's always a risk that they could fall into the wrong hands. It's like giving everyone a toolbox full of, powerful tools, but not everyone is a skilled craftsman. And some people might use those tools for, well, less than noble purposes.
Yeah, that's a sobering thought. It's like that old saying, with great power comes great responsibility. But in this case, it's with great AI comes great potential for misuse.
Exactly. And while DeepSeek has stated its commitment to ethical AI development, it's difficult to control how these open source tools are used once they're out in the wild. It's like releasing a flock of doves, hoping they'll spread messages of peace. But some might end up building nests in inconvenient places.
Or worse, getting caught in a windstorm and ending up who knows where.
Yeah,
Okay, maybe that analogy got away from
a
us.
little bit.
But the point is, there are unintended consequences to consider.
Right. And another concern is the potential for bias to be amplified. AI models are trained on these massive data sets, right? And these data sets can reflect the biases that exist in society. And if these biases aren't carefully addressed, they can be perpetuated and even amplified by the AI systems that are trained on them. It's like building a house on a foundation that's, already slightly crooked. The house might look fine at first, but over time, the cracks will start to show.
So garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
But how does DeepSeek's open source approach, make this problem worse?
Well, because the models are open, it's easier for those biases to be overlooked or even intentionally exploited.
Okay.
For example, someone could take DeepSeek's model and retrain it on a dataset that's specifically designed to reinforce certain prejudices. It's like taking that slightly crooked house and, intentionally making it even more lopsided.
That's a disturbing thought.
Yeah.
So instead of democratizing AI, we could end up with a fragmented landscape of biased algorithms, each one reflecting the prejudices of its creators. It's like an AI Tower of Babel where everyone is speaking a different, biased language.
That's a very real possibility. And it's one that needs to be carefully considered as we move forward with open source AI development. We need to make sure that there are safeguards in place to, mitigate these risks.
So it's not just about making the tech available, it's about creating a responsible framework for its use. It's like giving everyone a powerful set of tools, but also providing them with a safety manual and some ethical guidelines.
Precisely. But creating that framework, well, it's no easy task. It requires collaboration, transparency, and a willingness to address these challenges, head on.
Well, we've certainly given our listeners plenty to think about. We've explored the exciting possibilities of DeepSeek's open source approach, but we've also acknowledged the very real risks that come with it. It's like we've taken them on a roller coaster ride through the world of AI with all its twists and turns and the potential for both, exhilaration and nausea.
Indeed. It's a complex issue with no easy answers. But as with any powerful technology, I think it's crucial that we approach it with, a healthy dose of both optimism and caution.
So are we feeling optimistic or cautious right now? Or maybe a bit of both? It's like we're standing at a crossroads with one path leading towards a utopian future of open and accessible AI and the other leading towards, well, let's not go there.
Let's just say that the future of AI is still being written, and DeepSeek is one of the authors. But whether their story has a happy ending, well, that remains to be seen.
So DeepSeek is out there shaking things up, being all open and transparent. But where do they go from here? Can they really pull this off, this whole open source AI revolution? Or will they just end up as another footnote in tech history?
Yeah, it's like watching a tightrope walker without a net, You're amazed by their daring, but also kind of worried they might take a tumble. I mean, predicting the future of tech is a fool's errand.
Yeah.
But we can at least explore some possibilities, right?
Oh, absolutely. Let's speculate a bit. What are some potential scenarios for DeepSeek's future? Do they become the Linux of AI? Or do they go the way of the dodo?
Well, one possibility is that they just keep going on this trajectory, attracting more talent, pushing the boundaries of open source AI development. Maybe they even become a major player in the industry
Right.
and force the big guys to rethink their whole secretive approach,
So like a classic David versus Goliath story where the underdog actually wins. I always love a good upset. But what if the giants just decide to squash the competition?
That's definitely a risk. I mean, big tech companies have a history of acquiring or copying anything that, threatens their dominance. They could try to absorb DeepSeek into their Borg-like collective,
Right.
or just replicate their open source approach, but with way more resources.
Classic. Embrace, extend, extinguish,
Yeah.
maneuver. But what if DeepSeek, resists the siren song of Silicon Valley and stays true to those open source principles? What could that look like?
Now, that's where things could get really interesting. Imagine a world where the most advanced AI tech is just freely available to everyone. Not just a select few, in their ivory towers, but anyone with a laptop and a decent idea. It could democratize AI access,
Yeah.
lead to this explosion of innovation in every field imaginable.
Okay, now you're painting a pretty utopian picture here, a world where AI is the great equalizer, empowering individuals and small startups to compete with the big corporations.
Yeah.
But let's be realistic for a second. What are some of the challenges that DeepSeek might face trying to achieve this grand vision, besides the obvious, like actually surviving?
Well, for starters, maintaining a truly open source model as they grow, that's going to be a major hurdle. Can they keep their code accessible and modifiable even as their organization becomes more complex? It's easy to be open when you're small and scrappy, but as you grow, the temptation to lock things down can be pretty strong.
Yeah, it's kind of like, how's that saying go? Power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. But in this case, it's more like open source liberates, but success can be tempting.
Yeah, something like that. And then, of course, there's the issue of funding. Developing and maintaining cutting-edge AI, I mean, that takes serious money. Can DeepSeek find a sustainable model without compromising its principles? That's a tough balancing act.
Yeah, it's the classic dilemma for, any venture that starts out with these lofty ideals. How do you stay true to your values while also, keeping the lights on?
It's like trying to run Michelin star restaurant on a shoestring budget.
Exactly. And, we can't forget about the broader societal implications of all this. We touched on some of the potential risks earlier, like misuse and bias. Addressing those concerns is going to be crucial if DeepSeek really wants to gain wider acceptance and avoid becoming the villain in their own story.
Yeah, it's not just about the tech itself. It's about the ethics, the social responsibility, the whole package.
Right. DeepSeek's navigating some pretty uncharted waters here. There's no map for this kind of journey.
It's a grand experiment, a bold bet on the future of AI. And whether they succeed or fail, I think their journey is going to teach us some valuable lessons about the power and the perils of this, this transformative technology.
Well, that's a great point to end on. It's been quite a ride, hasn't it? We've explored the potential of DeepSeek, we've marveled at their audacity, and we've pondered the implications of their whole open source approach. But I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
I agree. We've covered a lot of ground, from giant parameter counts to transparent AI thought processes, from the allure of open source to, the potential for misuse. It's a lot to process.
But that's what makes it all so fascinating, right? The fact that we're still figuring all of this out, grappling with those ethical dilemmas, trying to imagine what the future holds. It's like watching a movie where you have no idea what's going to happen next.
Exactly. And in the world of AI, the plot is constantly evolving. DeepSeek is just one chapter in a much larger story, a story that's, still being written. But it's a chapter that's definitely worth paying attention to because it might just give us a glimpse of what that future could look like.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into DeepSeek. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the AI Timeline channel for more explorations into the ever-evolving world of AI. Until next time.